all you heroes, villains, and innocent bystanders. Welcome to a new location for the Ginny Lee Gentry Memorial Comic Book Club. We are going to be hopefully picking up where we left off many years ago with James's pick, which is going to be Day of Vengeance, the mini-series, 1 through 6, and then we also did the annual, which came after the series.
Yes.
So James, why don't you go ahead and tell about what the series is kind of about?
Okay. Well, it was by Bill Willingham, who also did Elementals and Fables and numerous other things. Those are his big ones he's famous for. Art was by Justin Tinio, who's famous for being in prison for being a pedophile.
Great.
Good times.
Yeah.
But
Not in jail for being famous for an artist.
Yeah.
He was a great artist. He was a good artist. He really was. It was a shame he had to go diddle with other little boys.
And comic book clubs immediately going down the tube, just like that took all like 5 minutes. And so, what
okay,
is the
we
series
will now
about?
pause
Yeah.
for 30 seconds of uncomfortable silence.
So we're at our normal level then.
Yeah.
Or was it his niece? I forget.
Looks like we haven't stopped at all. Like, so what was the series about?
Okay, so
Uh,
oh Lord. So in the lead up to Infinite Crisis, they had like 6 spin-off books of lesser known teams and stuff and they were all dealing with a world changing event. And this one was with the magic side of the community, thank you. And Jean Loring, who was the Adams' first wife and had previously killed Sue Dibney in Identity Crisis, which they later retconned into being a part of Infinite Crisis. Anyway, while she was in jail, the spirit of Eclipso, who was the original angel of vengeance or wrath, it was slightly different than whatever the Spectre was.
Yeah. He was the opposite of the Spectre.
Fell out of favor. So Eclipso came to her, made her a deal, took over her, and instantly reneged on the deal.
Yeah.
And then got up to mischief. So the book starts with Ragman. Do we need to go into what all the characters are, or if you want to know more about Ragman,
if you haven't read
go
it,
look up Ragman.
Yeah.
Okay. So Ragman gets summoned, and he comes into a wooded clearing, and there's been a great battle there, and there's a pit with hundreds of dead magic users, and Enchantress hollers to him that she needs help. She basically put out a general magic summons, and he's who came. And he asks what's going on, and she says, it's still going on, look up, and it's Spectre is fighting with Blackbriar Thorn. And Spectre has gotten huge and crazy, and Eclipso has convinced him that there will be no more evil if he gets rid of magic.
Magic is the root of all the evil in the world.
Yes. So the Spectre has gone crazy and is killing anyone with magic and destroying magic.
Hilarity ensues.
Yeah, she and Ragman flee, and they go to a was it the bar with no name or something? Oblivion
Bar
bar.
of Oblivion.
And meet with all the who's left of the magical community, and they get a ragtag group of 6 or so people. It's
Volunteers.
Blue Devil, Detective Chimp, Knight, Master. What's
Black Alice.
no, not yet.
Black Alice didn't come later.
Who's the dark? The
Nightshade.
Nightshade.
That's what I was thinking.
And
Enchantress.
Enchantress and Ragman, and they decide somebody's got to try to stop the Spectre. Why not us? So they team up, and they're the rest of the book is them trying to outthink and try to come up with ways of stopping the Spectre, who is at this point he's
batshit crazy.
well, and he's all but invulnerable. And so traditionally the Spectre had been linked to a mortal, and it just finished being Hal Jordan.
No, it wasn't Hal Jordan yet.
It wasn't Hal Jordan
I
yet.
don't believe so. It was still Jim Corrigan, and he was in. He's in.
But hey, anyway, he left, so the Spectre had no human host, so he was easy to manipulate.
Right.
But
And all of this is like a precursor to the comic book Shadow Pact.
yes.
So eventually, when all of this is said and done, Shadow Pact kind of becomes a book, and
It
most
lasted
of the characters,
25 issues, and
then it kind of turned into the Dark Justice League later on, which is
Yeah.
kind of just as good. But they like the characters stayed the same. I don't think Ragman was in the ongoing, was he?
yes,
Yeah,
he was.
yeah.
He was. I don't remember him being in there.
Yeah.
And then eventually like Blue Devil went away, and then
He was in it for a while. He was in.
Yeah,
Shadow
Blue
Pact.
Devil left and got replaced with Zariel.
yes.
Um,
But anyways, yeah. So
Yeah.
they made their own book, and so it was actually this is kind of a precursor to all of that.
and that book was also done by Bill Willingham, who is one of my favorite writers.
It was really good.
And so
Yeah, I don't understand why Shadow Pact got canceled because it was actually really good. And then when it went into Dark Justice League, like I was like, wow, this is actually pretty good still too.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there was several years transition on that.
Yeah.
I want to say it got canceled because he just left.
he was
leaving the book.
off. I thought he was off the book before that. I thought it transferred.
Yeah. Cause
Anyway, Shadow Pact lasted 25 issues, which is more than a lot of books last.
Fair enough.
So.
And we're
So, what did you think about the story, Terry? Did you enjoy it, or?
So I'm the one that picked it, and I picked it because it's traditionally been one of my favorite stories, and I go back and read it every few years because I really enjoy it. So, sorry.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. The art was good. The story was pretty good. The character engagement was really good. I liked how it would give a color and a symbol when each person was talking, or it was their monologue
Thinking,
or whatever,
yeah.
possibly thinking. That was pretty cool. So you always knew who was saying what or thinking what.
And they kind of almost picked like it was almost predominantly one per book. Like each
Yeah.
book was somebody different.
Right.
And towards the end, they the Detective Chimp I think kind of butted in a little bit, but like for the most part, it was usually one person per the book to see kind of what they were.
And each one of them had unique, not powers, but like Detective Chimp brought his intellect to the game, but he wasn't super powerful. Nightmaster was a natural leader. Enchantress was powerful, but
She
she had to be careful of her
could
dark
be
side.
unstable,
Yeah, because she
you know, Ragman could ramp his powers up and down, and you know, Blue Devil had a lot of raw power, and
they definitely had each one kind of had a place in all the stuff.
The Nightshade was transport, and then in the book Shadow Pact, she really grew into herself and her powers.
Yeah.
And they touch on that later in this series as well, where
she was always more powerful than she thought.
Well, also though you have a lot of change in that miniseries with Nightmaster, because he becomes the leader of this land. By taking up the sword, he becomes.
Well, he had already done that.
Right,
but he didn't realize that he later in Shadow Pact finds out, because he was older in this book.
Right.
This was like his last gasp. In Shadow Pact, he finds out that if he truly embraces the sword, he becomes immortal.
Right.
But that's later.
and like with Nightshade though, she gets rid of Eclipso basically, and that kind of leads into her being more powerful.
And it comes out in the Suicide Squad movie, June Moon and Enchantress were linked. In this one, her backstory is she was also part of that she and Enchantress had been linked.
I think that was something that happened in Suicide Squad, though. I don't think that was something that was actually part of her. I don't think that was part of the June Moon Enchantress kind of persona.
But in the book, it talks about that she and Enchantress's souls had been linked.
Right.
Because somebody misinterpreted it and thought that meant that they were girlfriends back in the day, and she's like, "No, I'm not gay. And we were literally linked souls."
Yeah.
Oh, that wasn't a metaphor.
Yeah, not a metaphor. Dow, what did you think about the book? Did you like the story?
Yeah, I like James. I'd read it once before when it first came out, and so I like Willingham's stuff. So I thought it was, if you just want a straight magic story, it's a good story.
And I like the way they thought around the problem. You know, instead of just raw power,
instead of punching, they we had to send her. They really had to think about when they fought Eclipso, they had to take Eclipso out first in order to kind of reason with the Spectre.
You know,
and then still that didn't work.
Yeah, and they eventually go recruit Black Alice, who can steal Spectre's powers for a short period of time, and then at one point, Captain Marvel Shazam is fighting, and Shazam is the wizard. Shazam is pumping up his powers, and Enchantress figures out, hey, we can add to that, and puts him on equal footing with Spectre long enough to.
Yeah. I mean, it was really, I thought, like you said, I really liked the fact that it wasn't just a magic story per se. I think there was also there's kind of a buddy element to it, where they were actually all doing different things. There was a little bit of action in there. I really liked that there was repercussions for everything, because that was the one thing towards the end when Fate was it doesn't matter what you do. If you kill me, then the next age of magic comes in. If you don't kill me, then I'll become more powerful. It's just there was a weight to everything. No matter what they did, something was going to happen.
Well, and you had Zatanna and Constantine doing things outside of the series to try to help. But one of the big magic guys is the Phantom Stranger, and he was reduced to a mouse.
Yeah, but they even talk about that too.
They mentioned that.
Instead of the Phantom Stranger using his magic to change himself back, which was what he's going to do, he ends up using that power to pump up Shazam.
Right, yeah.
And so that was one of the things that was kind of neat. There was repercussions for everything.
That was also the death of Shazam, the wizard.
Yes,
because it all went into Billy into Shazam.
Well, they blew up the Rock of Eternity, then they
Right.
rebuilt it, and that's when the magic Rock of Eternity came.
And it also had funny moments because
Right.
like somebody said, does it bother anyone else that we're rebuilding the Rock of Eternity?
Yeah.
Does that sound wrong to anybody else? And at one point they released the 7 deadly sins.
Yes.
And they had to go collect them, and like each member of Shadow Pack got tasked with one of them, and like one of them got lust, and he was like, "Whoa, now he's up
Blue
there,
Devil,
honey."
and Witchfire was after, like, you know,
Yeah.
can't sleep with them.
And the Detective Chimp got Sloth, and he was like, "Well, this is the easiest catch ever." He didn't feel like doing anything, and
which was actually works out for Detective Chimp because he didn't want to do anything anyways.
Right.
and
But that was all in the
Shadow Pack.
well, that was in the
extra
Yeah.
afterwards.
the annual at the end.
Yeah, because when the Rock of Eternity was destroyed, that released the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah, they kind of ended the series. The actual series is kind of just a weird ending. Like they just kind of left it like there really was no true ending to that.
Well,
series.
at the end of the 6-issue thing, they got rid of Eclipso. And then the extra one was dealing with
the
the
repercussions.
Spectre.
Now, does it ever deal with at the end of the special, Nightshade is taken by Dr. Faustus, I believe?
No, it was just monsters. Yeah.
No, because he was in.
She gets
There's a couple of
abducted,
them.
and then they
It was
they
Dr.
get her
Faustus in
back.
the background and 3 monsters or something like that.
Yeah.
Grab her.
Yes.
They do deal with that because she's back in Shadow Pact. But yeah, when she grabbed her one of the sins and then got abducted.
Right.
But they do deal with that.
I also thought it was interesting that when Enchantress was drawing all these powers from all these other magic users, that you saw all of them, and none of them stepped up to be part of the Shadow Pact. Probably they were all off doing something else. But I mean, you had like Zaytan and like you said, Constantine, just a bunch of other magical users, but they didn't step up.
Well, in the Shadow Pact book, they said that there had been other Shadow Pact teams throughout the years,
Right.
and that traditionally
Well,
they
said that
were
they
a
eventually
lower powered, but like the champion of lost causes.
Yeah.
That they usually, a Shadow Pact team ended in tragedy, but it was stuff that had to be done. That it was
The messy end of magic.
Yes. And they were also dealing with if the Spectre broke all, they were like, because the Spectre thought he could get rid of magic, and they were saying, no,
He
you
just
can't get rid of
rearranges,
The
magic.
wizard
It's
said you
like,
can't get rid of it, just reform it.
it's like, the law of conservation of energy. It can't be.
Well, that's what Dr. Fate
Created
was saying.
or
It's like, doesn't matter if you
destroyed.
destroy all of us, it's just going to redo.
It'll start the new age of
Rewrite it,
magic.
yeah.
But they were also talking about repercussions of if you break all these things, some of these bad things, they spent thousands of years locking them away, and then you're starting again from scratch, that it's going to be chaos. And, if you got rid of all the nations of the earth, there'd be no wars, but there'd also be nobody to take care of the trash. Or
So, briefly, obviously, the art is a kind of a sore subject.
No, the art.
But the art was
beautiful.
actually not. I mean, it worked
it-
well.
and it
for
was
the-
I thought the art was unique because it wasn't always super, like, especially if you were at a distance, it was simplistic, but you could make out what it was. And there's been other artists with that similar style where they,
Carlos Pacheco.
yeah, because like George Perez, if he draws a little character off in the side, he puts as much effort into this itty bitty little character as he does a great big head sketch. but this, they draw a simple thing, but you could still make out who it was.
And there was also like an edginess to it, like
Yeah.
it was very kinetic and like energizing, like a lot of, especially when they use their magic towards the end when Nightshade started doing, like, she created that kind of monster, and it was just like this, like, almost like strips of shadows coming out and forming this monster, and like the way that they, like, he placed them, and kind of like everything was not like rounded off. Everything seemed kind of edgy and like almost like everything could cut you, and it was that kind of added to the magic element and that kind of grittiness and kind of darkness. Even though when there were several pages, especially towards the end when they're fighting on that island that was really bright and kind of like colorful, it still had like, there was still something that was kind of just like odd about it that still kind of threw everything off, which I thought was kind of interesting how they did that.
Colors were done really well. They were
Super
darker
rich.
tones, rich, but we're still vibrant at the same time,
Yeah.
Well,
which worked well with the art.
Justiano, his art is
And the
he's a
subject.
nice style. He had a nice art style. So I remember some of his stuff on Chaos books and stuff that he was traditional art, and it looked nice, and like you said, the kinetic energy on it, that's what he brought to it. So
We will now pause for another 30 seconds of uncomfortable silence.
no, I mean, it's just a shame that what happened, because I think had that not happened, then he would still be around doing art now.
Yeah,
It's not like he hung himself over it or anything like that.
it's just,
Just
it's got that sad edge to it.
Yeah,
which is
it's
crazy.
just a sad story. Yeah.
The other thing I thought that was really interesting about, like, not only this series of the book, but Shadow Pact in general, like, it does seem really, like, lends itself to something that you could see nowadays on, like, HBO Max.
Or CW, or
I don't know, CW, I disagree on that. I think there was also a part of this that was kind of, like, almost a little, like there was just something that was dirty about it that was just, like, I don't know, CW, they always have to have some kind of, like, a little bit edge, but there's always something like, it's almost like sexual edge that was not like, that's not.
See, I didn't get that when I read it, but I mean,
Well, that's what I'm saying, is like this one I don't think has that. Like, I think CW is more like Riverdale. It's always like there may be edgy parts to it, but there's always some kind of like teen, emotional, sexual energy kind of towards it. And this I think is not like that.
I think you can still do it. I mean, Supernatural didn't have that unless you would consider them incestual brothers. I mean,
Did you watch Supernatural?
I mean-
I'm just curious. Like, the whole thing was like Dean was like a sex symbol. Like, I'm just saying.
I mean, to you maybe, but not. I mean,
No, I'm pretty sure that was kind of general rule
And
for
that-
people.
we've talked about it before, but like the subtle humor in it, it reminds me of some of the funny lines in like the Avengers.
Yeah.
When they catch Cap, when Cap talks about language, that's not going away anytime. And when there's a scene where Ragman thought that he and Enchantress were having a moment, he goes in for a kiss, and she's like, "What in
She's like,
hell are
"Absolutely
you
not."
doing?"
Yeah.
And then she teases him about. She's like, "Don't have a quiet moment with him. He'll go in. He'll go in for it."
Yeah.
And he's like, "You misread one signal." That just felt like that similar, light thing, like good movies can pull off instead of the ones that
But this
forced humor.
This definitely had also a lot of characters that they, like, even if they lost a main character, and they had plenty of things to draw from that were kind of backup, like in the annual.
DC's bullpen of magic characters is huge.
Well, they even like in the annual they brought in a lot of those extra ones, like Witchfire, and what was the
Wardrobe?
Huh?
Did they bring in?
No, what was Jennifer
Dr.
Morgan?
Occultist.
Yeah.
And then
The warlord's daughter,
what's her name? Like, it's
Jennifer Morgan.
I thought that was his wife.
I think it's his daughter.
Oh.
I think.
You're probably right.
That's about that.
It's
That
been a while since I read
made me
that
a
one.
creep,
And then,
yeah.
but there was a scene early on in the Oblivion bar and it was the who's who of B team
Yeah.
magical characters in the DC universe, and there was a group of vampires. There was some explorer ghosts. They couldn't affect the real world, and they're like, "Well, we'd help you, but we can't do anything."
Well, like Tracy 13 though, she's kind of an interesting character too. Like she was kind of, you know, she had a bigger part later on. They Tana brought in. She kind of had the, you know, so like they definitely would have a really neat cast if they could. Because I'm thinking like a lot of the, like if you've watched the new Titan series, the new Titan series is really dark and kind of gritty, and like I love that they drop the F-bomb all the time. Like it just kind of seems more realistic, like what superheroes would be like almost. And I think this would be really great in that kind of vein of that dark grittiness with all the extra characters they bring in, and they can, you know, they could bring out and set back in for a couple episodes and then take out, or you know, they'd have plenty of cannon fodder to destroy. And so I thought that's one thing I really liked about this book too, is like there's always some interesting background characters that were kind of cool too. So, what's your least favorite thing?
At times, I got annoyed with Detective Jim. I mean,
He just
You
kind of
don't like
arrogance
smart
to him.
monkeys, do you? You like your monkeys
He was
dumb
a bit
and
of a
king and
smart
free.
aleck.
yeah, he was a bit of a smart ass, but I mean,
I also like I have to say, like, even though the story was really good, I did feel like it was super rushed. It seemed like like as soon as the problem came out, they already had a solution somewhere.
Mhm.
And I know that was kind of like what the Detective Chimp and the leading role for Nightmaster was supposed to be, but it did seem really kind of quick on the draw. Like it was just like, okay, problem, okay, now we have this, okay, all right, now he's won again, okay, now we got to do this, okay, he hasn't won here, all right, let's go back and mull, and like, oh no, 2 issues, we're ready to roll. And it seemed really like something that would, especially with this kind of scope of stuff that was happening with the magic battles and stuff, it should have been a little bit more I could draw it out a little bit.
Maybe gone instead of 6 issues, maybe 8 issues would have been
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
you know, I felt it was rushed, like you said, but at the same time, it almost felt like the story had to be rushed to take care of Spectre before he
Yeah.
destroyed everything.
Well,
I don't disagree, but
and
I think that would be the one
part
thing
of
that I
the it was, you know, these guys shouldn't have had a chance against Spectre,
Right.
but in which case you don't have a story. It was a little contrived at times, but it didn't feel.
it didn't feel like it was a unbelievable story to the point where obviously it's superheroes or magic people,
Right.
but it also for me it just felt like I think that like some of it was
I'm tired.
like they really didn't get into the point of like why are not these other people, like why is Zatanna not in there, why is Constantine not in there, why is the Dr. Occultus, why is he not in there, like I mean like, these are big magic people. They dealt with some of them, but there was definitely like I think there could have been room to grow some other stuff.
Though they did explain why, like Phantom Stranger wasn't in there,
right.
and Fate was.
You know, he killed or sent Kent.
Yeah,
Nelson.
Yes, thank you. It's like Kent Strong. It's like that's not even remotely right.
Ken
Just
Strong.
combining a bunch of people. Like,
Well, that's the monk. No, that's Kent Hill, isn't it? From the Avengers. Never mind. Kent Hill. Never mind.
but
You got me doing it too now.
that
see?
would be the one thing that I think that they could. It did seem like a little rushed in a couple of areas.
I kind of at the beginning I got kind of tired of the whininess of Nightmaster a little bit.
Well, all of them
Yeah.
were.
They all were
They
whiny.
and the reluctant hero.
Right, you know, you've done this for so many years. You're not a reluctant
Especially like
hero.
people like Ragman. Like Ragman's been like a low level hero fighting people all the time.
Right,
It's
yeah.
He should be like, this is like old hat.
Yeah.
Maybe not this scope, but there is a point where it's like you've been a hero for a long time. Why not?
Well, I think it's pretty cool though. The story of Ragman is that he's basically a prison for people.
Yeah.
And he
Redemption.
redemption,
Yeah,
right? And so he
evil.
can use you know, okay, you help me do this, you know, well, you know,
Shave so much off your time.
shave off the time, yeah, and he can still compare him up, which
Yeah.
I think is pretty cool. So,
So what would you recommend it to would you recommend this book to other people?
That would, yeah.
Definitely.
Well, I did. So
You did, so yeah.
What was your pick? Doesn't mean that you would let people
And we just recommended it to an entire,
Yeah.
30, 40, 50 subscribers out there
It was
now.
a good read.
I think we're up
What?
to like 8.
I subscribed,
Did you?
finally, yeah.
Yeah,
See?
thanks.
One
It only
of
took a year and a
the-
half. Thanks.
one of the things, if somebody today read it, was DC's rebooted twice since then.
Right.
So a lot of the characters and
Backstories,
even the origins and backstories have changed. So
That's
just read this for what it is. Maybe read Shadow Pact,
They do
but don't
expect it to go
this
into
is not the
mainstream,
DC world that you find
nowadays.
on the
Right
newsstand today.
However, I do have to say they did a really great job of explaining people. Like, they explained Ragman's powers. They explained
Right, yeah.
that Enchantress could go crazy. They really did a good job of explaining, like, kind of who these core people are.
Mhm.
Maybe not all the backstory, obviously, but I mean, like, they definitely did hit the high spots that you didn't feel like. If I was a new reader and I read this, I wouldn't feel lost on who the fuck these people are.
They didn't just drop you in the middle, but they
right.
also didn't spend the entire
Exactly, yeah.
issue
Rehashing everything.
everything. And there's a fine line, and I thought they covered it very well.
Yeah.
So, out of 5 stars, not colors, out of 5 stars, what would you rate the
You made
series?
one mistake, and they never let you live it down.
No.
But
We don't
heaven
want you to make that
forbid
mistake
they
again.
make a mistake, and you know. I'd give it 4 stars.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
James?
Blue.
A fuchsia.
It's not the greatest book ever, but I'm still going to give it 5 stars because I go back and read it every few years. And even if it's not the best, it's fun and I enjoy it.
Terry?
I'll give it 4 hues.
4 hues? 4 hues of gray?
Yeah, 4 hues.
I would give it 5 stars. I think even with the small issues that I would nitpick about it, I really enjoyed it. The characters were great. The art was worked well with the book. I definitely enjoyed the future of the future of the book, like in Shadow Pact and Justice League Dark. It definitely culminated really well. So I would give it 5 out of 5, and I would definitely recommend this to newer readers and anybody that I think would be a good book to give somebody. So with all that being said, we got to pick books for next week. So, and I think we've decided
Next
to
month.
Next month.
or no, next month. Well,
Next month.
that's actually that's next week.
Yeah, it is. It's true.
I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, we already discussed that. I was thinking about reading these 3 annuals that connected together. Dow didn't apparently like that, but
Oh,
it's your pick. You pick whatever
Pick
you
it,
like.
That's fine.
it was ran through Detective, I believe, Green Arrow, and Question.
okay.
I don't remember the name of the story off the top of my head.
Fables.
Fables.
Yeah, Fables. It's been a long time since I've read it.
It's
All right.
Mark, or forget, I can't remember the author.
Do you know how many times I've tried to look stuff up on my phone, and obviously it's not gonna work.
One of the authors is Mike Grill. He wrote, I think, in Hannigan, isn't it?
So it's
I think Grill didn't Grill
3
do
annuals.
the
It's called
Green Arrow
Fables.
part.
Detective, Green Arrow, and Question.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the greatest Question character. It's not Renee Montoya.
Oh gosh.
So it's that hack fixed sage guy that is not really the true Question.
Don't even get me started.
Then we wonder why we argue. So
But I think it's got Talia al Ghul.
don't ruin it. Don't ruin it. I've never
Well,
read
she's
it.
on the cover, so.
I don't even see the covers. I have nothing. I'm going in fresh, man. I'm going in clean. Have no idea. I'm ready. I'm excited. So that'll be your pick. So sometime next month we'll try to get together and do it again, and I'll try to post this hopefully this week or next. And if you get a chance, pick up the book and read it with us and see what you think. See if you agree. If you are not liking, share, and subscribe, please do so. Because
What do you want them to do? What do they have to do?
ring the bell for the notifications. Ding, 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 ding. I hate that. Like that's probably like I was
And like the page.
yeah.
But like
And
the page.
are you guys still doing your
Comic Book Straight Talk will be coming back probably in the next few weeks.
As long as Delta virus doesn't completely shoot up.
As I say, Comic Book Straight Talk will be coming back in a couple weeks. Even if I have to do it myself, it will be coming back.
That's fair.
We did take
Well,
a
with
little break.
audio, you could do it
Yeah.
remotely.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fair.
it's kind of hard to do, but yeah.
So if you get a chance and
yeah.
you're not shared with them, like definitely check that
Ring the
out.
bell for Comic Book Straight Talk on YouTube.
If you are share or you do like them, please feel free to
Yes.
connect with us and join us for a while.
And we would like to thank the Comic Empire of Tulsa for hosting us
One of the
today.
longest running comic book shops in Tulsa.
We're back in the
Yeah.
basement.
Back in the basement.
Well,
The
it's
treasure
kind of hard to do the basement with video and audio. You could get away with it. 'Cause
True.
You can't tell.
This looks like a
This could be
basement.
the
This
basement.
could be a basement.
Yeah.
That's
This could be
true.
the man cave.
That's true.
Maybe next time we'll just take out a couple lights, turn them off.
And maybe next time we'll bring the camera a little closer to us.
We're gonna try
That's
some things out and
Hard
see.
to do.
But I like it because it actually fits us all in.
Well, that's true, but
We have
but we don't know what the audio is going to be like.
we have all the comics in the background.
We'll
That's
find
true.
out.
We have an awesome.
If it sounds horrible, we'll get it right eventually.
we'll figure it out.
That's what happens when you're
We'll overdub it.
indie run, indie edited. So until next
You edited
time, we'll see you on
Really?
the flip side.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.